Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alright, so I will be talking on position just to explain further about what we discussed about it before. So basically, positioning is a way of putting or placing each of your elements at every or at a particular position on the web screen. So there are 5 types of it, of which static is the default value for every element until you change or you put it otherwise. So that means let's start with the static position. According to this definition here, static position elements are not affected by top, bottom, left, and right properties. That means wherever your value is, wherever the element is, you cannot shift it away from where it is or move it away from wherever it is. So that being said, looking at the example here, you realize that the only thing you need to set here is the position, and there's no need for top, bottom, left, right, and all. So that is just what it mean by static. That is the exact position of that element, and that is it. So that doesn't have much talk on it. But moving on to the relative part, relative type. Position relative is it's a normal position, just like static, but in this case you can actually move it away from its position, from its correct position, maybe from move it away from the top, move it away from the bottom, and move it away from the right or left. So that is just the simple difference between static and relative. In both static and relative, the elements are always on their right position in their initial state. The only difference now is that in static, you cannot move it away from where it is, while in relative, you can move it away from wherever it is using the top, right, left, bottom properties. So those are the two different things. Hold on, let me show you example here. Okay, so let's take a look at the example here from this list. So this is example for relative. As you can see, all the elements are on their right position. If we remove this, so remember the default position of every element is what? Static. That means even if we did not set the position to static or to any value, the value will still be static, and what it means is that all the elements will remain their current position. Look at it here. They are on their right position. The position relative here is at the top, followed by this, followed by this. Nothing is weird or odd here, so they are just taking their right position. But then when we say we want to have a relative position, it means we define the position to be relative, and then it will still remain the same thing because relative is not so different from static. The only difference is that we can adjust the position of a particular element. If we run this, it is still the same thing as static. Now let's move it away from the left by 30 pixels. Moving it away from the left by 30 pixels will be like this. And then if it were to be right, if it were to be top, notice that changes to, and then bottom. You see that? So those are the difference between static and relative. I hope you understand that. So moving on to the other part, which is the position fixed. Fixed position, looking at the definition here, is just element with position fixed is positioned relative to the viewport, which means it always stays in the same place even if the page is scrolled top, right, bottom and left. Properties are used to position the element. That is, it will be fixed on the same spot where you put it, even though there are other elements that will be on the same screen, on the same position. So wherever you put that element with fixed position, it will be there and it will not move with the screen. So let's look at the example here, which is this. Looking at this element fixed here, it is fixed at the bottom, and let's say let me do a lot of copy and paste in this case to see. Okay, so let's do this. Oops. Let's try more. Okay. Can you see? It is just fixed on that same spot. It doesn't move away from there, even though we are scrolling the screen. So that is just what fixed is doing. At the same time, we have all this other property that is helping us to move it away from whether it is top, bottom, or left, right. But here we are saying it should be at this place, bottom 0. So if we want to move it up a bit, you can just add, let's say, 10 pixels, and then it will move downward. So let's do top. Oops. Oh, sorry. Let's do that left. Okay, so look at it now. Have it here. Okay, so wherever we want it to be. So those are the adjustments you can make with position fixed. Okay. Now let's move move on to the next is absolute. Absolute is more like fixed, but let's look at the definition. Element with absolute is position relative to the nearest positioned ancestor instead of position relative to the viewer like fixed. So the difference is that this one is position relative to the nearest position ancestor, and then this one is position relative to the viewport directly. And that is, the viewport means that the screen view, like this. So something like this is a fixed position. Looking at this, so it's work with the viewport of the screen. So, but when you are talking about absolute, it takes the nearest relative position as its parent. So that means if you are going to, but if there is no nearest relative position, it will be like what is it? A fixed position that will take the viewport. So if an absolute position element has no positioned ancestor, it uses the document body and moves along with the page scrolling. So the difference now is, one, it does not take in fixed position, it takes the viewport, it works with the viewport, but the absolute position work with the nearest relative position. So that means if you are going to put an absolute position, you should put it in a relative position, even if the element before it does, the element does not need the relative position, only that you will not put top, bottom, left, right for the relative position, just to make sure this absolute work inside that relative position. And then the other difference is that the other difference is that in fixed position it does not move with the body, while the absolute position will keep moving along the scrolling of the body. So that is, in absolute position element has no position ancestor, it uses the document and moves along with the page scrolling. If you look at the example now, you see it's inside there, and then this is where I remember I said if this position is not here, then it means that this absolute position does not have a relative position, so it will make use of the document body as its relative, as its ancestor position. So that is why this move towards this place. But if we are to put this back, so it has to be position relative. If we use another position, it will not work. Let's use this. It's not there. If we use absolute, okay, absolute work. Let's use sticky. Okay. Now I understand now. So it has to be any position value except sticky. Static. Static is the normal way of it. So it means static will just mean that there is no position specified for that element. So that is why if we put it to static to take it away. So if you're going to be using this, you use relative or absolute. That should be good. So let's not dwell on that too much. The last one is the sticky, which is the last one, which is position sticky. To make an element to be sticky, or maybe at a point in time you want to be to be scrolling, and when you get to that particular element, it should just stay one place so that it will be visible for the user. Something like this. This is the exact position of this thing, and when you scroll up, you realize that this thing stick up here. So that's what sticky means, and it's just the same thing to specify. And the top, it's only work with the top. So that is what it means. Let's look at an example here. So yeah, this is just a simple example of what a sticky position looks like. I think it should be good enough to refresh your position, CSS positioning knowledge. So I'm stopping here. Thank you very much.